Okay, so you've become a millionaire, but you want to make the right decisions so you don't lose the wealth that you've already created. If that's you, then it might be worth watching this video. So we've all heard stories of people that have won the lotto, but then after a few years end up back to where they were financially. Approximately 60% of NBA players reportedly face financial hardship within 5 years after their retirement, despite earning millions throughout their career. And similar patterns exist for other groups that come into money quickly, such as entrepreneurs, entertainers, and athletes. If you don't have a strategy for your wealth, the same could happen to you. So before we dive into these mistakes, I should quickly introduce myself. My name is Daniel O'Loughlin, and I spent over 10 years studying markets, not just from a textbook, but from real-world investing and experience, which ultimately allowed me 4 years ago to quit my job and pursue investing full-time. I'm a chartered alternative investment analyst. I was an investment analyst at S&P Global. I hold a master's in finance, and I've also published academic papers on predicting asset prices that made a significant impact in the field. But most importantly, I spent all these years developing the tools for high net worth individuals to outperform in their investments. Okay, so let's dive into how to protect yourself as a new high net worth individual. Okay, so one of the first main mistakes is bad personal finance and a lack of planning. So these are some just general rules that can catch you out without realizing. So firstly, there's lifestyle inflation. You made a bunch of money, but it's what you do with it that's important. Just because you've made all this money doesn't mean you can go out and spend it on cars and vacations and homes. You need a wealth planner to analyze your situation. You need to spend relative to your net worth. And this is where hiring a wealth planner can benefit you. You need somebody to analyze your situation and then set you up to be able to spend large, but also grow your wealth at the same time. Now, another mistake is falling to pressure from friends and family. This often means lending money that doesn't get repaid or gifting too much money that you don't really have. Now, by all means, take care of the important people around you, but as noted above, you need a financial plan so you know your limits and you don't end up with little and a lot of people owing you money. And another general personal finance mistake you should be aware of is emotional spending, which is where people use their wealth to cope with stress, boredom, or a desire for validation. Now, another key mistake is not optimizing your tax situation. You should, as a high net worth individual, have somewhat of a tax strategy, because if your tax isn't correctly structured, depending on where you live, you could be throwing away 40 to 50% of your income or profits to tax. Or even worse, you could end up overspending the money that you have and then not actually having enough money to pay the tax that you owe, and then you end up having to pay back the government over years or have to declare bankruptcy. So you should really consider getting a tax advisor who you trust. And if you really want to optimize how much money you keep from your business interests or investments, you should also consider going offshore. For example, I've moved my own tax residency from Ireland to Paraguay. The highest rate of tax in Ireland is a marginal rate of 52% for individuals. But by changing my residency and domicile, I've been able to reduce that effectively to 0%. Now, I'm not actually against paying taxes, and neither should you. If the tax rate of the country that you're in is fair relative to other countries, and the services that you receive as a resident are actually good, then residing in that country is the equivalent of owning a good value stock, or let's say buying a good suit. You wouldn't pay designer prices for a bad suit. So even if taxes are high, but your government is efficient with how they spend that money, and there's, let's say, little signs of corruption, then you're actually getting value for the tax that you're paying through better public services, better healthcare, better infrastructure, for example. Another important mistake to be aware of is the concept of holding too much cash and avoiding inflation. Holding too much cash destroys wealth for two reasons. Firstly, cash falls in value every single year because the price of everything else increases over time, which means that the same cash that you have today does not have the same purchasing power, let's say, next year. This is the definition of inflation. And then the second mistake about holding too much cash is the opportunity cost of doing that. Why hold so much cash when it can be invested and growing your wealth for you? So ultimately, you need to hold enough cash in the bank for your living expenses, but I also recommend holding some in terms of an opportunity fund, so then you'll always have cash on hand to capture investment opportunities when they strike. So overall, cash should be approximately 10 to 30% of your total net worth. And the final mistake I'll talk about for new millionaires is regarding bad investments. There are too many ways to invest badly, and there's also so much bad education out there that it's quite hard to learn how to do it correctly. So it makes sense that it can go wrong for most people when they start investing without those years of experience and learning. There's bad diversification, bad business deals, and overall just risky investments. There are so many dangers. So here's some quick pointers to avoid. Firstly, don't take investment advice from friends unless they actually have a track record of success. This is because it's actually really easy to make anything sound like a good investment. And actually, on that topic of making anything sound like a good investment, you should focus just as much, if not more, on the actual negatives of every investment. That's actually a big differentiator between the people that are good at investing and those that are bad. Secondly, don't take investment advice from places like TikTok. Short form content is not the definitive place to be making investment decisions on. Now, I'm not saying that 100% of content creators on TikTok are giving bad advice, or that, let's say, the investments that they suggest are bad. But the incentive for short form creators is to create as much content as possible, therefore not allowing enough time to actually dig deep into these investments that they're suggesting. And also, you're not going to get enough information to make a decision based on 60 seconds of a video. And the third mistake with investing that I would suggest here is to avoid investing in companies that are trending downwards on the long term. Now, everything else might be really good about that company. It could have good financials, good management, good news, etc. But it's actually impossible to know when the actual turnaround is going to happen for a company that is trending downwards in the long run. This is based off years of experience and analysis, and there's many scientific papers to prove that also. So only invest in things that show long-term positive price momentum. So think about Shaq, David Beckham, Michael Jordan. These guys did the right things with their money. They used good investment management, good wealth planning, and a good tax strategy, which allowed these athletes to not only grow their wealth while they were full-time athletes, but also to multiply it further after they retired from their respective games. So if you're part of the new wealthy and you're interested in leveraging my experience and knowledge to help grow your wealth further, click the link in the description to be able to apply for exclusive access to your own private wealth desk. Or you can visit senecaprivate.com/apply, and I'll see you in the next video.